Solomon is fascinating to me. Of course, we know him best as the guy who asked God for wisdom when God told him to ask for anything he wanted. The perfect answer. But that's not why Solomon intrigues me so much. I'm interested in another side of Solomon, one we're introduced to in chapter 4 of 1 Kings. This chapter describes what life was like during Solomon's reign. It says things like, people ate, drank, and were happy. Everyone lived in safety. Each household had its own vine and fig tree. Life was comfortable and prosperous. Perhaps most telling is this phrase, nothing was lacking. In 1 Kings 5, we read that Solomon and Israel had no adversaries. It literally uses the phrase, God has put his enemies under his feet. Solomon knows he's got it good. He even says, God has given me rest on every side. God gave Solomon prosperity, power, comfort, and peace. God gave Solomon rest. Sound familiar? The real question here, though, what did Solomon do with this gift from God? How did Solomon use his rest? Well, first, he built a temple for God, the one his father David never completed. It was larger and more ornate than any previous place of worship Israel had ever had. Then he built a palace for himself. It was twice the size of the temple. He filled it with lavish materials. He commissioned extra large gold shields to decorate his throne room and an ivory inlaid throne to sit on. Even Solomon's dishes were made of gold. Once the temple and palace were complete, Solomon turned his attention to security. In order to protect his luxurious life, he needed to beef up his kingdom's defenses. So he built fortresses along the key highways leading to and from Israel. Next, the Bible tells us that Solomon accumulated wealth. And not just some wealth, an unbelievable amount. His annual wages were 4.5 tons of gold. That's billions of dollars a year. And it doesn't even include all the other goods he was trading in. He even acquired a fleet of trading ships. Oh, and women too. Enough to fill his enormous palace. 700 wives and 300 concubines. Then the writer of Kings gives us the punchline. The Lord became angry with Solomon because his heart turned away from the God of Israel. Solomon spent his rest on himself and moved further and further away from the Lord. Again, sound familiar? If I could summarize Solomon's use of God's gift of rest, it would look like this: self-consumption, self-gratification, self-improvement, self-protection, self-sufficiency, and self-focus. As Americans, we live in a situation that is very much like Solomon's kingdom. We may not all have billions of dollars and an ivory throne, but we do have safety and security. We have wealth and prosperity. We eat, drink, and are happy. God has given us rest. And what have we done with it? Spent it on ourselves. Our rest has not increased our passion for God. Our rest has not been used to become a blessing for others. We've indulged. We've consumed. And instead of spending our rest on the mission God gave us, we've built fortresses to protect our luxurious way of life. If I could summarize our use of God's gift of rest, it would sound exactly like Solomon's. A whole lot of self, not much of anything else. I'm guilty too, and all I'm left with are questions. Has God blessed us with rest so that we can live enjoyable lives and be happy? Or did he have something else in mind? Do you think God wishes we had spent his gift differently? Do you think he's angry with us the same way he was with Solomon? More rest is on the way. Maybe this time we can use it for God's glory.